While we await more news on Kevin Durant, we have updates. We have more records being broken by Devin Booker, and we have a big game coming up against the Sacramento Kings by the Phoenix Suns at home. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, we'll give you the update. We'll wait with bated breath. We're here with you. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Friday. We're recording early. We're here for you every day. We'll be here for a bonus episode after the Kings game this weekend. A lot to get to today. If you're finding the show for the first time, hit follow or subscribe. Get it in your feed going forward to catch up with, keep up with this crazy team. You can also follow along at Locked On PHX Suns, where you can drop your thoughts at me. You can also do that in the YouTube comment section below. All that good stuff. Joining me to talk about the, once again, crazy situation that these Suns find themselves in is Aaron Edwards, as he is here every week. Today's show, guys, is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make every moment more by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. All right, Aaron, we're recording this early. It worked better for both of us. I want to kind of do the show as if Durant is going to be out with the worst case scenario, because I don't want to do the best case and then we get an update like 2 hours after we record and it's like he's out for a month. So why don't we just start with what the news is? And I'll give you those updates, but just tell me what your thoughts were when you saw the video come out, when you saw the lineups get announced, and all of a sudden a bunch of people wasted hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars in that arena last night.
Yeah, it was such a weird situation, but I think it was more of just the Suns being the Suns. Like, I think that if it was serious, we would have known how serious it was already. I think it was just people took a precautionary L yesterday. That's like, yeah, I know we're treating it like it's probably worst case scenario, but I really think that the way Monty works and the way this team works and just the way we've been playing, I think we're going to be set at the seat that we're at. So There's really just no rush to take any chances with any of this. So yeah, like mostly I just thought people took an L, it was just charge it to the game kind of thing. Like, that sucks. You paid a lot, but we got bigger things to think about.
Yeah, Monty was asked about post-game before any of the updates I'm about to give came out, which aren't really much of updates at all. They're not from the team and they're pretty vague. When he was asked, is the way you're handling this a byproduct of just the overall carefulness that we've all kind of seen? Because I think basically you can trace this Suns season even before they ever got Durant. I think there was an inflection point from an injury standpoint when Book came out on Christmas and tweaked the groin after the hamstring was allegedly healed. And from that point on, they've been extremely careful. They had Chris Paul came back and then he rested more after not looking like himself, and then he's been better. Campaign took a lot of time with the foot. Landry Shamet is still not even back. Even Ayton, with some of the little things he's had to deal with, he'll miss games after telling us he's fine. Like, all this stuff where you can tell they just were like, all right, it's apparently going to be a season from hell from an injury standpoint. We just can't chance this stuff anymore. And he said, though, that it wasn't really anything to do with that. I don't know. Again, it's all just so vague and kind of you're just having to kind of decide what you want to believe at this point in time. But he didn't say, yeah, we wanted to be careful. He just kind of said, yeah, that's our overall view of everything. And this is no different. He didn't say, yeah, Durant is so special and we want it to be him to be as healthy as possible. But I tend to lean the same direction as you. I talked yesterday about watching everything that went down. I was sitting courtside while the dude was warming up, talking to people around the court. Everybody kind of gasped. He got up. It didn't look like anything. He's signing autographs. He's doing his thing. Just didn't feel like even necessarily he thought he wasn't going to play in that game until he went back to the trainers. Let me give you the updates, though. The audience, Aaron, everybody, we can talk through that. So Brian Windhorst has an article at ESPN where he basically, the key phrase is, quote, "The team is hopeful Durant avoided a serious sprain, but he is scheduled for an MRI on Thursday to determine the severity of the injury." Durant left the Footprint Center in a walking boot after the Suns beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 132-101. Then you have Greg Moore of the Arizona Republic with an even more vaguely worded thing, and I'm not challenging anybody's reporting on any end of this. I'm just showing the two sides of the spectrum. People are saying different things, and it's all sort of vague. Greg Moore said there is concern within the Suns organization that Durant suffered a grade 2 ankle sprain, an injury that could sideline him for 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to stop talking in a second, but the last point that I want to make here, Aaron, is people, I think, should be a little bit more wary of the diagnosis part of that versus the prognosis part of that, the timeline versus the injury itself. The way that article is worded is they think he might have a grade 2 ankle sprain. And you can just Google grade 2 ankle sprain and it says 4 to 6 weeks. They don't know right now how long he may have to miss. So I wouldn't get so caught up on the timeline part of this, but more so what actually was the injury. And then you go to what is going to need to be the recovery time.
Yeah, it's weird because some people's bodies are different. Like, I'm sure LeBron has had a grade 2 and he just ties his shoe tighter and he doesn't miss a game. So I think everybody's body is just different. So to say that he's already out 4 to 6 weeks is just kind of, or just say that the team is worried that he might be out 4 to 6 weeks. It's way too early for that. Like, I've seen ankles do some weird stuff, and it's really just by the body. Like, it's by whoever it is at this point.
I think that all seems fair. I mean, what do you think of the approach, though? Like, because Chris was asked, and, you know, it was kind of funny. Like, he got asked, are you worried about if you're going to have enough time to gel with if there's another kind of setback with an injury? And he just said, the longest nope that I've ever heard. And I don't even know. He's not going to tell us what he feels, right? Chris Paul has been doing this too long to create a narrative and be like, yeah, I'm terrified. I think we're going to lose the championship. Put that in your newspapers like that. It's not what he's going to do. But if we do get some sort of sprain, do you agree with the idea still of playing things patiently and kind of prioritizing health, or prioritizing we need to get these guys? Obviously, he needs to get off of it for a little while, but prioritize, let's get him back on the court, even if it's a limited minutes thing or whatever the case may be, because they need to have time to develop chemistry and play together.
I would just say the rest. We know what the team looks like with them. It's people have to make open shots. You're going to get a bunch of open shots. Make your open shots. Yep. That's what the offense is going to be. Whether he rests or he doesn't, it's just we know what this team is going to look like. Make your open corner threes. That's the offense now. Just make those, and it's not like we don't know how this team meshes anymore. We know what it looks like. You're going to get doubled. Both going to get doubled. Make your open corner 3. Like, that's just what it's going to be from now on. Just do that.
It is what it's going to be. But, like, if you just take a second, do you realize how crazy that is? What that says about the guys on the court and how seamless this has been? Like, I knew it would be seamless. Like, I had really no doubts. That's why I didn't even really talk about the offensive end all that much. I just wanted to see what it would look like. I didn't have a lot of concerns about if it would work. But still, like, to just be at a point after 1 week where we were like, like, give him a couple games in April, last weekend of the season, put him out there, give him some tune-ups, and then, they'll probably, like, win the first round in 6 games. Like, what? That's crazy that it already feels that good with how well these guys have clicked together.
Yeah, I expected people to get open shots, but he posts up at that at the top of the free throw and he gets doubled and he kicks it out and Book hits it to the corner and it's somebody open. Like, I think it's just as simple as that. I think Monty's job has never been easier. I think Chris Paul's job has never been easier, and we know what it looks like now. So yes, if you need KD to rest his ankle and just get it better before May, then yeah, I'll take that because he's the easiest superstar to play with. He's going to find you. You're going to be open. And you have another superstar that can get a bucket whenever he wants. And I just think that if rest is what we need, then you can do that because you know what this offense is going to be. Everybody just needs to be prepared to make open shots. That's what it is.
Pretty much is what it is. We might learn some more by the time people are listening to this. If there is anything extreme, I'll put out a quick like instant bonus type show, but I don't think we're going to be in for much of a surprise here. We know what the realms of possibility are. It's just a matter of how the Suns choose to handle it, how Durant's specific body responds, and that's kind of where we're headed. Let's talk about Devin Booker, Aaron, because this guy is having an insane season, maybe the best one of his entire career, and I think it's kind of going under the radar because of the injuries and because of the other noise that's been following this team. But from a scoring standpoint, it's absolutely his best, and I don't think it's gotten enough shine. I kind of want to just have some fun with looking at the numbers and the history of it. Let's get into that in a second. First, today's show, guys, is brought to you by BetterHelp. Here's the deal. We all can use help. We all know that there's times when we've been down. There's times when maybe we've needed it, but we don't always ask. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. And therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding to get to the bottom of those problems and understand them. I went to therapy during COVID, not going currently. It was a big help. My wife goes, like, this is something that does not need to be trauma. This does not need to be a problem or a big life changer, anything. It just can be helpful to get to the bottom of what's going on, go through changes with somebody else and have somebody to talk to. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist to start, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if it doesn't quite feel right. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com now, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. All right, so Devin Booker, Aaron, I just want to give you a couple of his stat lines. Well, we know he's on a stretch of 35 plus in 4 straight games, all on not just better than 50% shooting, but at least 58% shooting from the field. He has games this season of 49, 2 games of 44, a 51-point game, a 58-point game, and now this stretch that he's on right here. He's shooting 49% from the field, 37% from 3, and 84% from the free throw line, a career best 27.6 points per game. I know it might sound ridiculous to say like Devin Booker doesn't get enough attention for his scoring because it's like that's what he's known for and he's a star for it. But I think this season is getting overlooked.
Yeah, I think it's just he finally gets he's getting one-on-ones like he's never gotten before. If you double him and you kind of get mixed up in your defense, you potentially lose track of Kevin Durant. And I think teams just can't have that either. But yeah, he just seems like he's in the zone. He's attacking more. I mean, there's still some games where he's not getting like the fouls that other superstars get, but he just kind of figured it out. Like he's taking more threes finally. And It's just all of that like finally came together. He found a good mix of what it takes to be a superstar on offense, and it's just working. Like it looks really good. We were saying before that before you know it, like Book will have the quietest 33 you've ever seen. It's even quieter now. He hasn't sped up. That was another thing we loved about him. Like he doesn't rush anything. He does everything at his own pace, and before you know it, he has 40 points on 73% shooting. Like it's crazy now. Like he just really has it figured out. And we said that at the beginning of the season when he was on that tear, when he was just aggressive and just attacking people and getting to the rim. It's just even more of that now. It really does seem like he's just in the zone now.
I think he's settled into where, like, you know, like you mentioned early in the season, he had a 14 free throw attempt game. a 15 free throw attempt game, a couple 10, 11 type games. You look at what he's basically done since he came back from the groin, and he's basically been six or seven, but consistently doing that. And that feels like maybe just what it's going to be. Maybe there's games where he knows he needs to, or other teams in the bonus, whatever it might be, where he's able to get more than that. But if he can just get a comfortable 7, that's not a problem. And I think like the crazy thing to me recently, at least, has been that Sacramento game before the break where he got 32 without taking a 3. And then you compare that to last night where Monty probably shouldn't have brought him back in after he got that 4th foul. Like the Suns were up like 20 plus by the time he even checked back in. And you could tell like Book said he wanted to put on an extra show because KD got hurt in that game. I feel like Monty, even if he's never going to admit that, was kind of like, all right, let's let him do his thing. But then last night he has 6 of 10 from the 3. And like when he did check back in at that point, they're doubling him constantly. Like basically he's not getting the ball. He's not going to shoot, whatever. And then he does anyway. And I feel like when you combine the ability to get to the line more consistently, more just sort of within the flow of your normal game, plus like he just has that ability now and the timing and knack for the moment of it, of like, I need to mix in these pull-up threes because that's sometimes the only shot that they're going to give me, but I can make them. Plus all the mid-range stuff and driving stuff that he's always had. I think that's kind of just what's allowed him to let the game come to him, is he has an answer for everything at this point.
Yeah, and having one of the greatest offensive players that ever exists and probably show you stuff that even you didn't know yet probably helps too. I think that he's just learning all the tricks. Like he is learning where the pressure is coming from, because he used to kind of wait for the blitz to get to him before making a move. And now he's just attacking stuff. He's going before it gets there and starting the offense. And you can just tell like he's playing at a higher pace sometimes, because sometimes Book is a little bit too cool and he waits a little bit too long to get stuff started. But you can tell like the clock in his head is a lot faster and he's just picking it up a lot quicker.
He had that it was going around on Reddit, at least, that I saw on the Suns Reddit. That was the kind of like rope-a-dope, like fake move one way, back the other way at like the elbow against Isaiah Joe last night.
Oh, and the spin and the fadeaway. Yeah.
Yeah. And that one was like a perfect example of what you're talking about, I feel like, where the Thunder play small. We all know that. They're not going to have a rim protector in, but he just takes that half second. He has the dribble package and the sort of like hesitation move to create the time and space for himself to check where the defense is, make sure there's no rim protection there. He knows he can get past Isaiah Joe. That's been there for 5 years. But now he has that extra little bit of hesitation and the ability with the ball to make that space for himself. And then he just gets the shot off. You know what I mean? And like it's building up from, I'm at the perimeter, and then I know I can make a shot, but getting from point A to point B type of stuff. And I'm sure that some of those things from a timing and spatial awareness standpoint have come from playing with great players and just reps and time and seeing defenses and all that stuff. So I didn't really talk about it the other day, but Booker being at the top of, he got to the top of the threes made in Suns history. Where is he in points? I pulled this up and then now I'm not saying it. He is 4th in points. He's going to pass Kevin Johnson. It could happen. Well, it's probably not going to happen this year. He's like 500 points away. So that'll happen early next year. It's actually, he's further away from the top than you would think. He's still 3,000 or so points away from Walter Davis at number 1. But if I ask you in among active NBA players where Booker is, do you have any guess where Booker's total points among active NBA players are?
No.
He's 36th, which, it speaks to, I think, on the one hand, there's not a lot of young players as high as him, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at
people are playing longer.
Exactly. People playing longer. it's a lot of players around him right now that have had long careers but aren't like incredible scorers. So let me read you. Andrew Wiggins is actually right behind him, which jumped out to me more than anything. But Derrick Rose, Goran Dragic, CJ McCollum, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Gordon, Tobias Harris, those types of names.
Yeah.
But that's all within reach. Like, those guys are all within 1,000 points of him. This time next year, we're going to be talking about, top 25 among active players, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Blake Griffin territory. And he's not even close to being 30 yet. Like, this guy, like, I just think you take a step back. He's been in the league long enough. We're talking about a dude in the middle of what will be a like legendary record-breaking type of scoring career. And like, the fact that he keeps getting better and adding these things we're talking about, it's like, we're not on the downslope yet. We're still on the upslope of this thing.
Yeah, he's going to have 3 years with KD space at least. And you would have thought that adding another scorer like that would probably hurt his points. But I think once you add in the spacing and the one-on-ones, I think he's probably going to never score more points than he ever has these next 2 to 3 years. So, yeah, he's going to be in that, like, top 20 at least by the time even this KD contract is up. Like, we don't know what kind of point guard we're going to get after CP3. So the whole team, like, he can probably even go higher than that. I think this whole makeup and the pace of this team that we're probably going to have later on is even going to change that.
You mentioned the space and playing off of Durant. Kyrie played 143 games with the Nets. Now, granted, not all of those were actively on the court with KD. We know that those guys were, especially with Harden, rarely out there together, but a lot of those games probably at least half. He had 27.1 points per game, which is by far the best he's had on any team over his average, although this Dallas thing is off to a good start too. But he basically was 40, 50, 90 in Brooklyn. And the most points per game that he ever had. You know what I mean? And like, we thought of, like, those early years before LeBron got to Cleveland, we were like, yeah, Kyrie's just going out there and scoring. He's a young player with the offense unto himself. Like, not really. His best years were when he had Durant out there creating space and giving him somebody to play off of. So, yeah, I don't think it'll quiet anything down. And I just want to, like, that's the bummer part of the injury, I guess, to come back to that, is like, we just don't get to see it as much. But if it happens by the playoffs, I think those moments will be obviously better than, for instance, Sacramento on Saturday, which we can transition into here. Big game. And you mentioned that the Suns you said at the beginning of the show, they might just be stuck in the seed that they're in. I'm not so sure, because they play the Kings twice. And this game is the first one among a couple of big games they have upcoming. So let's dive into that next. First, today's show, guys, brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000, making FanDuel also America's #1 sportsbook, because you get bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app now. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to threes drained. I thought this was kind of funny. The Suns have moved from the favorites to win the West to even with Denver at plus 260 here, as the Durant news hangs in limbo. Feels a little funny to me, considering I don't think anyone expects the ankle sprain to affect, the second and third round of the playoffs, but maybe you get in now. Cash in on some better hesitation over on FanDuel. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. I personally love the pre-built parlays that they have. If you just scroll through, there's always a ton, and you can find that one feels good to me, and click in and put some money down rather than having to come up with it all yourself. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, so Aaron, the Suns pretty decisively beat the Kings heading into the All-Star break, or one of the last games heading into the All-Star break, when their roster was already depleted, and yet they had no issue with the Kings. I feel like they can win both of these remaining games, and I do feel like only being, I think it's 2.5 games back right now, we could be, and now Sacramento being tied with Memphis, who are in a dive for different reasons, although they've been bad on the court too lately. I think the Suns could get up to number 2. What do you think?
Yeah, I was saying that we have 17 left, I think, and I was just the streak that we were about to rip off. I looked at we have the Lakers next week, or I think we have the Lakers next week, and just with KD and the way the team was looking, I just saw us ripping off enough to catch up, especially with Memphis falling apart right now. But yeah, I just it just depended on health to me, and if it's not going to be a health thing, I could have just saw us just been like, all right, it's us and the Mavs. Let's just get it in our head that that's going to be it, or us and the Warriors. Like, I just the Warriors are kind of falling apart too, but I figured that it was just going to be stuck at that. And if KD's not hurt, then I can still see us ripping off a couple, especially if since we have the Kings twice and we have a lot of just Western Conference teams coming up. But still in my head, I see just this spot. It just seems the way Monty does things. I'm really hoping Chris Paul takes some rest soon. And I just was really just hoping that this team just kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting because like you see the track record at the end of the past couple seasons, like ending up having to play the Lakers that first year they made the playoffs, right? That was like the epitome of we're not worried about any of this and we're just going to keep winning. And it probably wasn't the smart thing to do, although it didn't end up affecting them. They win that series, obviously, but there's that. But then last year they kind of did bench guys at the end of the season, and then we all entered the first round feeling like, did they make a mistake doing that? Then you have the Dallas game this past weekend for the Suns where everybody's playing 40 minutes. And it feels like they really went into that one feeling like they wanted to win it and that it really mattered. So I don't know how they'll play it, but I just feel honestly where I'm coming from is I just think they're better. I think that they're better than the Kings, and I think they're just a bad matchup for the Kings, even without Durant, although especially with Durant, which could be the case by, the second of these games after Saturday is Friday, March 24th on the road. KD could be back by then, and that would be a whole other thing. And I don't think they play Memphis again, but I don't have any reason to believe that the Grizzlies are going to turn things on. The Steven Adams that just came out, he's going to miss a ton more time. We don't know when John Morant will be back. Brandon Clark is now out for the season. They're not giving you any optimism. So I don't know. And I do think if there's anything pushing them toward like wanting to make a push, it's that you don't have to face Denver in the second round. You get to save them for the third round. And I think anybody would want to do that when you look at no one else in the West really is putting the fear of God in you except for Denver. I would be wanting to face them as late as I possibly can.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know how Monty would play something like this just because with KD, I think it's just a be healthy and get into the playoffs kind of thing. Like it really, like how LeBron kind of played it those last couple of years in Cleveland. It was just get in, like we'll be fine when we get there. So I don't know if Monty has it in him to do it that way, to just get into the playoffs and we pretty much have a better roster, or we're going to have two of the best 5 players on the floor at all times. So if Monty wants to play it like that, I'd understand. But if he wants to go for it, I'd understand that too. If he doesn't want to play Denver as early as he has to.
Yeah, the Suns have a one back-to-back next week, obviously at Golden State, home against Milwaukee. That one I'm sure people are aware of. And then they only have one more back-to-back after that, which actually includes that second Kings game I just mentioned at Sacramento the 24th, and then home against the Sixers the 25th. So you could see them maybe playing things a little bit patiently when it comes to that. Those two stretches, benching guys, resting guys, doing whatever. They actually have another one April 6th into April 7th, but that was where I was going to go next, which is Thursday, April 6th at home against the Nuggets. Do you think Monty shows anything in that game? Do you think that just ends up being one of those where it's like the second string against the second string and it's just a nothing game?
I think Monty will treat it as He has dudes that love to play basketball, so who knows? Like
That's the weird thing, right? We don't know.
Yeah, I can see him wanting to do that, but Katie and Book love to hoop. Chris Paul loves to hoop. Like those guys probably just want to play basketball, and they don't really see Denver in front of them. I mean, they also know how big of a deal it was to like show them that this is what you got now. This is what you're going to deal with. But I can see Monty taking that power away from them too and not letting them do it.
I don't know. They also play Denver Friday, March 31st at home. They play them twice at home in the course of a week. So I doubt that they would just give them nothing on either of those games. But I also think if they don't, if they play everybody and go all out and, scheme up a real game plan, I think you have to take Monty's Pop card away. He is not a Popovich guy anymore, because Pop would say we're resting them for both of those games and we're fine being the 6th seed, and it doesn't matter. It's just about the playoffs. You're not getting anything on tape against us. We're not showing our hand whatsoever. But yeah, that's the funny thing. Like, everybody likes to talk about the minutes with these players on the Suns, and it's like, it's the complete opposite of what it is with the discussion, the debate around the league right now with load management. It seems to be driven by the players, and it seems to be that Monty and James Jones both don't create a culture where the training staff or, the mathematicians who calculate bone fracture rates and like all this stuff, whatever is going on behind the scenes that's leading to all these guys sitting. It doesn't seem like Monty and James allow that stuff to get in the way. So you're probably right that if anything, it's going to lean toward playing. And like we saw last year, I'm sure there's a little bit of regret of like, did we let everybody cool off too much heading into the playoffs? And then New Orleans almost surprised us, because I think that kind of probably shook them up a little bit, having that difficult of a time with a play-in team.
Yeah, I think it was also just after a long, like they played a lot of basketball in a couple months. So I think it was a lot of that. It was their last year was the first real season, right? Or we were about to start on time this year. So I think it was just a lot of that thinking toward the future that Monty was like, if we don't rest these dudes, they're going to play months of a lot of basketball. So he kind of was his hand was kind of forced in that instance.
We'll see. I think they can get to number 2 or 3. And I think it would benefit them to do it. And I do, again, just come down on these all are interesting questions. I just think even if Durant has to miss some time, they're good enough to keep winning. Like, they just don't have a lot of opponents upcoming outside of, the Warriors are a better team at home. The Bucks are going to be tough. That's a home game for the Suns. We'll see. They play Orlando, the Thunder, the Lakers, the Kings, the Sixers. The Sixers are a tough one. Like, you just look up, and until that March 31st against the Nuggets, there's only 1 or 2 that really would make me put an automatic L, and I'm putting money against the Suns in a game. I think they could do it anyway, no matter kind of what their strategy around any of it might be. But we'll see.
I think just the confidence with KD on, not just because the starting lineup, I think the stagger is what I like. Like, we have to have a full bench lineup again yesterday, and it got ugly for a little bit. And I think a team that can always just have Booker or Kevin Durant on the floor at all times is just a lot scarier when you know how to stagger those minutes, and you can always have just somebody that can get a bucket out there.
Yeah, and I guess on the other side of it, right, they lost to the Bucks without Giannis, and with their kind of non-KD team, they lost to the Clippers that way. And, I guess maybe let's not overreact to beating the Thunder by 30 when they didn't have their probably 2 best players themselves. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll learn a lot about this team, I think, even if Durant doesn't play, because these other guys still have some things to prove, and just staying healthy and getting chemistry would be a step in the right direction from what we've seen. So that'll wrap us up, though, guys, today. Again, if there is any big, crazy KD news, I'll put something up, but I think we covered the most of it. Hoping to do a bonus episode after Saturday's game against the Kings, reacting to what I just said was going to be one of the bigger games of the season. So hit follow or subscribe to get that show in your feed, plus every Monday through Friday, plus those bonus shows going forward. And in the meantime, go make Locked On NBA your second listen. Get caught up on everything going on around the rest of the league. There is plenty going on there as well. That show's available on all podcast platforms. And I'll check in with you all tomorrow.